management's a part of the NBA, and don't worry, this is going to be a football subject, but the NBA, load management's become part of the culture. It's almost become a status symbol. Like we've always joked, like, you got to load manage, and some guys like eighth man in the rotation going like, I would love to load manage. I'm very tired, but I still have to play every single night. Load management has become kind of a status symbol, and then we go like, well, yeah, but this game is it's a Thursday night nationally televised NBA on TNT for now game. This is Embiid and Jokic play. Joel, you do not get to load manage today, and
we can thank Greg Popovich for that. Him and old Tim Duncan, man, they got it started.
But like I said, like everything else, it became a status symbol. It became I have to rest because I have to get ready for the playoffs. The rest of these peons, they can play. And I know the NBA has tried. They've tried with new rules, like, hey, you got to play X amount of games, and then of course everybody pearl clutched. It was like, oh, I should be having to sacrifice their health to win awards. Like, oh my goodness, no, they're asking them to professional basketball players to actually play professional basketball. NFL should make Caleb Williams play at least one series in the Hall of Fame game. It should be in the collective bargaining, Brenden. It should be in the rules of the league. If you are a skill position player drafted at number 1 overall, which I can't remember the last offensive lineman that got drafted number 1 overall. I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think it ever will happen. If you're a skill position, you should have to play in the Hall of Fame game. Whatever team is participating in the Hall of Fame game, your highest drafted player should have to play one series. Now, here's the deal. I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to watch, and I know that the starters for the Bears and likely the starters for the Texans are not going to play. But it should be in the collective bargaining. Especially the number 1 overall draft pick, and if you are a quarterback, a running back, a receiver, you should have to play at least one series. So we can have something to look forward to in the Hall of Fame game or week 1 of the preseason or any of these games. And it's just like, I saw that this morning and I was like, that's a real bummer. Also, the Jets not playing Aaron Rodgers. Now, I know that when you added the 17th game and when you added the extra wild card, it pretty much was the beginning of the end of ever playing anybody in preseason, right? Because when you added that extra wild card, coaches will never talk about it, players will never talk about it, but what they told you is it gives you an extra loss is what it gives you, right? It gives you a chance to, throughout the season, if maybe you are not ready by week 1 or week 2 because you decided to sit your best players in the preseason, you got that extra wild card. You can still get to the playoffs. You can still make a run. You're gonna be okay. It added essentially a buffer there, not for the bad teams, but at some point, are we just gonna get rid of the preseason? I mean,
we should?
Do we need it? I mean, college football doesn't have preseason games.
Don't need it, baby.
Now, it's always nice when you start off with either Idaho or Idaho State. It's a little different.
We're smart.
Then, like, who's in the? Does USC play LSU? Is that week 1 or is that week 2? I know that USC shall be playing LSU in Vegas.
Week 1.
Week 1.
Good luck, USC.
You think LSU is going to be good?
I think
they just lost
USC.
a Heisman Trophy candidate. I know their recruiting has been good, but it hasn't really been setting the world on fire. Auburn has been setting the world on fire in the recruiting world, but you have faith that Brian Kelly can turn LSU and his family down there in the bayou, that LSU, a team that last year was pretty underwhelming, especially on the defensive side. I'm not buying the LSU stuff in terms of opening game. Again, remember, didn't they need Or didn't they miss an extra point or something against Florida State last year? Or am I thinking about 2 years ago? Because I believe they opened up with Florida State. I think USC.
Yeah, they opened with Florida State, but they got rimrolled by Florida State.
Gotcha.
It turned out Florida State, went undefeated, so no.
They
biggie.
did, but
no, that was one of the things that I paid attention to when you were at Big Ten Media Day, and there were a lot of information coming down the pike that day. But I just remember hearing somewhere that there was some concern for USC in the trenches in the Big Ten, and it might have been one of the interviews that you did, and it was like, okay, well. I don't know. Like, without Caleb Williams, who covered up so many mistakes, you guys can believe in Miller Moss all you want. I need to see it from USC.
I think I get uniforms are magic with USC.
Could be.
You see those uniforms, those Trojan uniforms and those helmets and that fight song that they play over and over and over again and the V for victory and everything else. And you just assume, well, they're going to be good at football. You just assume they're going to be somewhat, not lights out, top 5 Pete Carroll era Reggie Bush and the like, but you just assume that USC is going to be somewhat good at football.
Yeah, it's true. And USC will take a step forward. Like I said, when you go take 2 all-conference players from Oregon State's defense, you'll probably be a little bit better on defense.
Forgot about that.
But no biggie. You just have to take your own because you're USC and you can't recruit your own 5-star talent. But neither here. I'm just kidding. But
that's the new wave, man. That's the new era of.
Like Lincoln
of these big time programs, man. It's just like why on earth would I go recruit a high school kid? I can go and just raid Oregon State's pantry right now.
And
I know those guys can play. These high school kids, they might not be able to play. I know those guys can play.
Yeah, it's true. So they'll be I don't know. I have concerns for USC. So we'll see. Lincoln Riley, they can score. They're going to have offense, but
well, that's what I was going to say. I don't believe Lincoln Riley, who I said this, probably. It was pre-COVID, but.
Is that how we're going to look at our life? Like BC, AC, before Christ, after Christ? We're going to just start looking like.
Yeah, before.
BC. Oh, my gosh, it works too.
BC.
BC before COVID, AC after COVID. All right, I've set the tone for an amazing day.
But, I remember, I want to say it was around 2019. And I was like, I thought Lincoln Riley was like the next Chip Kelly. In terms of this guy and the offense that he is running it's unstoppable and everybody's going to be copying this guy. Right? Because Chip Kelly was not a tremendous recruiter. But the guy was the best at looking at the rules, figuring a loophole out, and his loophole was no huddle, go fast, run the same play over and over because they can't get their personnel out there, and we're going to be in better shape. And obviously the rules change, but Brenden, I have a hard time believing that Lincoln Riley just forgot how to coach. And I know and then Alex Grinch became kind of his scapegoat because every coach, when they're not living up to the hype, has to have a scapegoat. But I don't know, USC, it's too quiet down there in USCville. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten. I don't think they're going to be in the playoff, but I'm going to throw a hot take. I think they beat LSU week 1.
Could be.
I think they beat LSU week 1. I don't. Maybe it's because I'm anti-Brian Kelly.
But yeah, that team was hot garbage last year. So you saw them play at Austin Stadium.
But we say hot garbage. They're 8-4. Weren't they 8-4?
Oregon State was also 8-4.
Oregon State was good last year. Oregon State was a good team last year.
But if Oregon State had a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, probably would have won 10 games.
Well, if ifs and ands were pots and pans, we'd have a lot of fun in the kitchen.
If
USC had Oregon State's defense, which they kind of do now,
that's fair. That's entirely fair.
If they would have had Oregon State's defense, or half of them, which again they might have some now,
if you can't beat them, take them. They did beat them though. So I gotta give them credit.
What were we talking about though? Oh, that's right.
Lincoln Riley.
But before that, preseason games. Oh, I can already tell it's going to be a doozy of a show. These 3 hours are going to be a whirlwind. But yeah, no, college football, like they play these big time, massive number 1 versus number 4 match week 1. No preseason. They don't need any preseason. They do a couple of scrimmages here and there. If you're not going to play the starters, I wonder how much longer NFL is going to have preseason. But as I have told you, young Brenden, you ever wonder, like, why is this happening? What is going on? Why? This doesn't make sense. Why? Oh, you follow the money. Oh, they're always going to have preseason. You want to know why? They still sell tickets to preseason games. They still sell hot dogs and beer at the preseason games. They still charge $60 plus for parking at the preseason games. And you get at least 2 a year because it's down to 3 total. You get 2 a year. Yeah, they're never going to get rid of those. That's good. That's a good chunk of change that they're never going to want to give up. And also, TV networks like playing them. I'm a sucker because I'm going to watch a Hall of Fame game with a bunch of fourth stringers that probably aren't going to make the roster. But no Caleb Williams tomorrow. But we will get tomorrow our first look at the new kickoff rules, and we have learned other new things. I've always said the NFL is the big bully on the block. They can do whatever they want. Did they take it a step too far? Are we going to miss onside kicks? We'll talk about that and a whole lot more next. 620 Rip City Radio. Next segment, we are going to continue what many are doing in the media industry, especially around this time of year. Brenden, what do we call it? We call it our countdown to
Kickoff.
That's right. We call it our countdown to kickoff. That's right. Because at the beginning of every football season, there is a kickoff. At the beginning of every football game, there is a kickoff. It is a symbolic start to a season, a game, a half. And now kickoffs in the NFL are going to look very, very differently. And it begs the question again, other than the symbolic beginning of the game, do we really need kickoffs in football? Now, there's the weird part of this, which is like, hey, Justin, it's called football, and kickoffs are one of the very few times they actually kick the ball. You want to maybe start talking about eliminating that? I mean, it's football, but yeah. It's also the Big Ten. There's 18 teams. Okay. It's the ACC. Stanford and Cal are in it. We call stuff the original meaning for a lot of different reasons. And it just kind of sticks around. You drive on a parkway, you park on a driveway. I could go on and on and on. But the NFL, in what they say is an attempt to, one, limit collisions, but also increase returns, right? Because we saw over the last couple of years with the new fair catch rule, essentially a fair catch anywhere, inside the 15, I think? In college, I think it's inside the 25. If you fair catch it inside the 25, you get it at the 25. I think that's the rule. We should probably know that. But the NFL has seen now that guys can kick it out of the back of the end zone, and now that kickers can off the tee kick it essentially straight up into the kickers in the NFL are so good. Kickers, beyond just making field goals, kickers in the NFL on kickoffs are so good. These guys sit and they practice, and they can put a ball on a tee, especially if you're kicking indoors, and they can boot it straight, and it will drop right down on the goal line, which is essentially where you want it. Some coaches want, hey, kick it out of the back of the end zone. Don't give me any return. Special teams coaches, they want you to kick it straight up in the air. Why? Because of hang time. Hang time creates more time for your kickoff team to get down the field so that you can ultimately try to make a tackle and pin somebody deep. And while maybe not in every college game, but in the NFL, when we talk about why coaches are maniacal, why coaches are crazy, why coaches are so hyper-focused, because in the NFL, the games are so close. It is such a razor-thin margin between victory and defeat that one drive, that if you start on the 15 as opposed to starting on the 30, right? A good return, you get the ball in the 30. Bad return, you get the ball in the 15. That could be the difference in field goal range when a play doesn't work. That could be the difference in having to punt. That could be the difference in extending a drive. Those 3 points might be the difference in, do you have a chance at the end of the game? This is why coaches are nuts, and why when you think about these kickoffs, they put so much time into them. But then it got to the point where it was just statistically better. You just take the fair catch. No reason to risk anything, especially with regard to injury. Let's get the ball at the 25. So the NFL had a problem. The NFL's problem was nobody's returning kicks, which is kind of boring, but also you don't want these crazy downfield collisions. So they have created a new kickoff model, which I think we talked about back in March. Didn't we? This was a rule that was put in place back in March. It is the hybrid NFL hybrid kickoff. So the kicker is going to be all by his lonesome back at the 35. The kickoff coverage team is going to be on the 40. No, not 5 yards in front of the ball. No, the other team's 40. So, doing the math, they are going to be 25 yards in front of the football. Kicker boots it off, and what you have is more of a scrum and less of a absolute collision. And more strategy is going to be involved. But, Brenden, the NFL did something a little tricky. Did your mom ever try to get you to eat vegetables by putting cheese on it? You were picky enough. You weren't falling for that anyways.
Yeah,
but
they tried just about everything.
You know how like you get your dog to eat a pill, you put it in some peanut butter, or you get those little pill pockets.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the NFL did with this kickoff rule. They gave us the hybrid kickoff rule was part of a big packet, and then buried in the fine print that really hasn't popped up since yesterday, even though this was a rule that the league adopted in late March, but nobody noticed because they so radically changed the way we are going to look at actual kickoffs. Were we eating broccoli this entire time? I thought we were just eating cheese. They hid it. There's going to be no more onside kicks before the fourth quarter. Because if you think about the new rule, right? If players are all standing 25 yards in front of the ball, well, guess what? Can't onside kick. There are no more onside kicks before the fourth quarter.
Which, I mean, was there ever really a need for it before the fourth quarter anyway?
The one example is going back to the Saints-Colts Super Bowl. Saints come out kicking off second half. Surprise onside kick, they get the ball back. Changed the entire game.
It's fair.
Because they were
but nobody else
playing,
has done that
they were
since.
playing really well, but it was like, okay, Peyton's going to get the ball. Look out, here come the Colts. Oh, wait, no, he's not going to get the ball. Changed all the momentum. But that's anecdotal, right? That is one time. I don't know, it just is such a radical change for me. It's just hard, right? It's like, you can't do that. It's like, why? Because it's freaking me out. So here's the onside kick. No onside kicks before the fourth quarter. No onside kicks if you have the lead. If you have the lead in a game, no onside kick. Can't do it. And if, in fact, it is the fourth quarter, you are, in fact, behind, you are allowed to onside kick. But you got to declare that you are doing so. Which, again, I skimmed the article, but I always found it very funny, like when you would have the one team and they would line up and the other team's like, are they onside kicking? Are they not? They might have enough time. And then they would kick it deep. So now you have a very different kickoff rule. You've got a very different onside kick. The surprise onside kick, at least at the professional level, is now over. I'm curious how long before college football adopts this. Because right now, Brenden, we were talking about it before the show. Kickoffs in college football are purely symbolic. That's all they are. You could, and I if you gave every college football Division I FBS coach truth serum and said, hey, Coach, we might be thinking about getting rid of kickoffs. You just get, every time a team scores, you get the ball at the 25, and we just go from there. I'll bet you 90% of coaches will be like, yep, sign me up for that. That's less things I have to prepare for. I already have so much limited practice time to eliminate the hours upon hours that I have to spend practicing kickoff and kickoff return, only to maybe have one return a month. Also, a chance to eliminate some Some doofus third-string wide receiver who thinks that he saw a seam only to be tackled at the 7-yard line? Yeah, sign me up for that. So, here's my thoughts. You ready for a crazy idea?
Let's do it.
Crazy idea. We do in basketball, not at the NBA level, but every other level before the NBA. Brenden, how do we start every game?
Kickoff.
Oh, in basketball.
Oh, sorry, tip-off, yes.
Tip-off. Other than in the NBA, do we have another tip-off? The answer is no.
No.
There's not. There's
I
a
think
there's a possession arrow in college, and the possession arrow determines after jump balls and at the end of halves, or in high school at the end of quarters. It's just a change of possession. Tip-off in basketball it's ceremonial. How about we create the kickoff like a tip-off? You go in, you have you get the coin flip, right? Coin flip happens. All right, you have won the coin flip. And by the way, can we end while we're in the middle of fixing kickoffs? Can we end the kick, receive, or defer, and just make it like it is on Madden, or like you pick either kick or receive? Every year, there's one poor kid that they run out there who goes, "Yeah, we want to kick," and it's like, "No, you don't. You want to defer," and it's like, well, if you kick one half, you receive the second half. Can't we just change that rule? And I feel like that is a rule that is in place to confuse high school kids. Some poor high school kid every year, and if you are a high school football referee, first off, we need more of you. Keep doing the good work, but if you are listening and you are a high school football referee and you ever had a kid go, we would like to kick, and you go, no, you don't, and you didn't correct them, you need to take a look in the mirror. I've always hated that. For those people that don't know, when you go out, heads or tails, call it in the air. The answer is heads. Team Brenden, would you like to kick? Would you like to receive? Would you like to defer to the second half? And almost every kid who grew up playing Madden is like, now a good coach will tell you, you say this and no other word. The fact that kick is even an option is the dumbest thing ever. Because if you don't know, you go out there and you go, yep, we want to kick. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to be kicking in the second half as well. Let's just get rid of that.
Yeah, no.
Can we just get rid of that? Some poor kid gets every year in high school football, but even in college, some poor kid says once a year, we want to kick. And it's like, all right, well, they get the choice in the second half. They're going to receive, and you're kicking off twice. Let's just end that. But let's just...
Still not as bad as Dion electing last year. Remember that? That was still one of the worst I've seen.
When he did not understand the overtime rules.
Yeah, he thought it was NFL overtime.
And then all of the Dion sycophants and butt kissers were like, no, he completely understood it. It's like, no, he did not understand. Didn't understand at all. Anyways. So, how about this? Instead of continuing to change, let's have one kickoff. Just one. We all want to start the game with a kickoff. We all want the photo op. We all want to... Oh, that's fun, you know? Did the Beavers do anything special for kickoff? Do they do like a thing? I know like Washington, they do like their hat thing, which I hate. Do they do anything like fun for kickoff, or is it just like a, one of those?
Yeah.
Everybody does that. It's so fun.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. With a kind of a more of it on the
So how about we do this? Would it be ridiculous? Would it be ridiculous to just, hey, one kickoff? You get one kickoff. We start the game kicking the ball off. You can still do all of your, old school traditions. And then after that, just like a tip-off in basketball, because we still call it NBA tip-off, we still call it college basketball tip-off. You have the opening tip, and then guess what? You never tip the ball ever again in basketball, other than in the NBA on a jump ball. How about we do that in football? Let's kick off the ball. Usually it'll be a touchback. We start at the 25. And you know what? We never kick off again. Never kick off again. Oh, but Justin, how do you have an onside kick? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Now I'm stealing this from I think it was John Harbaugh you line up on offense. If you want to elect to do an onside kick, you essentially line up at your own 35 and you make it a 4th and 15. 4th and 15. And by the way, if you don't get it, guess what? Other team gets the ball on your 35. Because some people be like, "Wow, people would do an onside kicks or doing the 4th and 15 every." No, I don't think they would. We kick off once. Kickers are still part of the deal, right? I'm not trying to eliminate jobs. I know that's another thing they talk about in the NFL too, right? The less kicking that you put in the game, the less jobs you are. I'm not trying to eliminate jobs. And by the way, most of the time it's either your punter or your kicker who kicks off anyways. So
It's called the KOS.
is it KOS? Kickoff specialist?
Yep, there it is.
But it's usually your punter or your kicker.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you have a guy that just kicks off and doesn't do anything else.
No, like you said, you pick your because in
So I'm
college
not- so
it's
I'm not
always fun to see depth chart wise who comes out to be the KOS because you realize who the coaches feel has the stronger leg,
Got it.
right? So it's always been something I've kind of been interested in.
So, but I'm not eliminating jobs, right? You still need punting still in the game, field goals still in the game. We kick off to start the game, and after that, every possession just starts at the 25. You do a 4th and 15 at the 35 if you want to attempt essentially a ceremonial onside kick. You know what I mean? Why don't we just do that? Well, quit messing around. I still think punting should be part of the game. Obviously, kickoff should be, or field goals should be part of the game. I do have this idea. What do you think about this, Brenden? And I think part of this is just to how to keep the game moving because college football games they have gotten slow. Remember they had all these rules to try to speed up the game, and it turns out none of it worked because they're just going to play commercials the entire time. What if we make extra points just automatic?
Well,
Just make extra points automatic.
then we're gonna eliminate kickers. Then they
But
have
you still
to get
got
out
to
there
kick.
and
You
do
guys
their
still
job.
got to kick field goals though. Did I go a step too far?
I see where you're getting at, but too many guys shank extra points just to give it to them automatically.
I guess we did just talk about Florida State and LSU from 2 years ago, where I think the guy missed the extra point that would have tied the game.
Yeah, I mean, even just like the last couple of years. All
right, I rescind it.
I have
I
the stats in front of me. Oregon State's missed like one extra point each of the last couple of years. So
All right, I
go back to
rescind it.
haunt them, but guys do shank it from time to time.
I don't know. I just thought it's just moving the game along.
I'm
Right.
not entirely opposed,
You
but
scored-
that one I raised my eyebrow a little
You
bit.
just score a touchdown, and you get 7 points. If you want to go for 2, well, then we dial it back to 6, and then you go for 2. It's just to speed up the game. But then again, like you said, yeah, that one time they shank it, and it's like, eh. All right, I rescind the extra points, but
It's still a good thought.
let's just. Well, I was thinking about that a handful of years ago when the NFL decided to move back the extra point. They're like, oh, it's too automatic. I'm like, well, just make it automatic. And by the way, now that they moved it back, it's pretty much automatic anyways. NFL kickers are so good. They're so good. But yeah, let's just have a symbolic kickoff. Everything else, let's just get the ball at the 25. And let's just go. Just go. I don't know of other than the opening kickoff, I don't know of one fan who's like, oh, super Jazz, they just got a touchdown. We get to watch another kickoff. I don't know of that fan. I don't believe that fan exists. Opening kickoff, yeah, it's awesome. because it's symbolic. It's traditional. It's just like college basketball tip-off. Let's do it once, and then no more. We just start at the 25. All right. Speaking of college football, we continue our countdown to kickoff as we go on campus next, 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, congratulations to our Rip City Radio Ticket Tuesday winner yesterday. We keep the winning streak alive. Exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. And make sure you listen to Rip City Drive each and every Tuesday afternoon for more chances to win. You can also get your Hops tickets at hillsborohops.com. We are 31, count them, 31 days away from college football kicking off 2024. But apparently college football 25, a little video game, is continuing to be a factor. We discuss that and a whole lot more as we go on campus. All right, so the most anticipated sports video game that I can remember is now out. Brenden, how many dynasties have you got? How many national championships have you won?
I don't know if you want to know.
Have you? I do. I asked you. I would like to know how many national championships have you won?
I think we're on year 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
Got 4 or 5 national.
You got 4 or 5 rings. You're on the Saban. You're on the Saban plan.
Well, no,
right
4
now.
or 5 rings just at Oregon State. Then I bounced.
You bounced.
I did.
Where are you at now?
Notre Dame.
You're gonna restore glory to old Notre Dame?
Yeah. I said you. It's funny because in the game, like
First national championship since Lou Holtz.
I know, right? It's one of those things where, and I would imagine, like you go from a school like Oregon State to a bigger school, you get more resources, more recruiting hours. More
resources outside of Corvallis?
So, I did what I did and then moved on and new challenge. And
were you honest with the fan base on your way out of town?
I was. Well, I delivered a lot of wins. So
yeah,
more than they could ever ask for. So.
Exactly. I set you up. But I remember we were talking during the months leading up to this, and I said, are you worried it's not going to live up to it? Because it has been such an anticipated, well, it turns out not just you, but everyone is like, it turns out it's awesome. $500 million in sales.
It doesn't, I mean.
Now, I don't know what the normal sales is on like on a Madden every year. But in just 3 weeks since College Football 25 has been out, it has generated over $500 million in sales for EA Sports. And as it turns out, created a new wrinkle for college football coaches. Our good friend Adam Rittenberg from ESPN, who joined me in Indianapolis at Big Ten Media Day yesterday, he has a whole story. It's on ESPN right now. Essentially, how coaches are having to deal with not only the fact that players are in the game and you get to play yourself, but now that every player is in the game and every player got a $600 check and every player got a copy of the game, guess what? None of these guys can stop playing it.
It's
coaches are having to figure out time management around their football players' video game playing schedules.
Oh, yeah. No, like as much as you joke, because today's Oregon State's first practice, we'll talk with Trent Bray. I plan to ask him, and it might be a question that maybe gets a chuckle from the media scrum, but, like, I'm just curious, like, if they've had to kind of, address it because, yeah, to your point, Justin, very much like you told me a few years ago, you had to put a limit on yourself when you were binge watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I was. It was the summer after I got fired in Seattle. They said thanks, but no thanks. I had 3 months severance. It was, for Seinfeld fans, it was literally the summer of Justin. It really was. Probably could have done a better job of, like, I don't know, planning for the fall that was coming. But at that point in time, I was like, I'm out of a job. I got 3 months severance. Summer adjusted. And so I started binging Game of Thrones, and I had to, and like you said, I had to put limits on it because I would find myself sitting in an apartment with Crash next to me just watching this Game of Thrones over and over. I was like, all right, 2 episodes. That's 2 hours of I got to go for a walk.
Yeah, I mean, and
it was in the summer. It's beautiful out. I got to go smell some fresh air. So I had to put limits on
Yeah,
my summer of Justin binge watching.
And I compare it to that. I told Justin for the better part of the last 3 weeks, I'm like, I'm going to absolutely have no social life because I'm going to play all that I want to play before Oregon State's fall camp starts. I have less time. But yeah, Justin, I can't tell you how many times where I've looked down and been like, oh yeah, been playing for 3-4 hours. And it's just, again, I'll say this, Justin, you've said this as well. I don't know what it's like to be addicted to anything super hardcore.
Yeah. But this video game, you feel like
it's definitely.
Are you thinking about it right now? Well, we're talking about it right now, but in the middle of the show, are you thinking about your
I kind of wish I was
dynasty?
playing.
You thinking about?
I'm kind of numb.
Now imagine you got a free copy of the game, and now imagine you didn't make yourself,
I'm
but
just
you
in
were
it.
actuing in the game.
I'd be playing with myself all the time. I'd be like, gotta throw to myself, all that stuff. But no, it's now it's gotta take a little break, so I wanted to get as much of it as I could. But it's met expectations.
Kenny
Justin.
Dillingham told Adam Rittenberg that at Arizona State they specifically took a day off the day after. Now again, it was released in the summer. Fall camp starts now, but you still do conditioning stuff,
yes.
and it's the biggest loophole in all of sports. Is like, oh, we're not practicing football, we're just working out. Oh, I mean, running and lifting and everything that you do in football and agility. You just don't have a footballer or the head coach, but they made schedule changes because they're like, look, we're going to tell them not to, but they're going to be up till 4 a.m. playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
We got to take the day off. Some coaches have went to the fact that everybody had a friend whose parents were like, hey, we don't want you to drink, but if you're going to do it, we're going to do it at home. It's like,
yeah,
let's just put some PS5s in the facility, so at least they're here.
Yep.
And maybe they'll get their fix here. But yeah, it turns out this is a variable and a factor, at least in the summer, that every college football coach is having to figure out how to maneuver around, is that this video game is taking the world by storm. And in the college football world, it is affecting sleep. It is affecting practice. It is affecting everything, which kind of fascinating if you think about it.
I'll be honest, there's times where I've had a really hard time putting it down, and I had to get up for this show the next morning.
Well, I appreciate you still getting to the show.
Of course, Justin. I'm a grown and responsible adult.
It's like if you ever show up a little bit late, I'm like, Notre Dame have a tough one against Michigan. I get it. All right, we have got hour number 2 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Chicago Bears and wide receiver DJ Moore have agreed to an extension. Highest extension in team history at 4 years, $110 million. The Bears will kick it off against the Texans in the Hall of Fame game tomorrow from Canton, Ohio. Caleb Williams and the rest of the Bears starters not expected to play. The Dodgers have added starting pitcher Jake Flaherty from the Tigers and outfielder Kevin Kiermaier from the Blue Jays to bolster their roster for a potential postseason run. And Team USA back on the court in Paris. They'll be taking on South Sudan at noon Pacific time today. 29-point favorites are Team USA. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joins us in hour number 3, but hour 2 of Rib City Mornings on a spectacular Wednesday. It starts right now at 620 Rib City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rib City Mornings, everybody. 20 minutes from now, we have got a make or miss. 45 minutes from now, stuff we saw on the internet. Olympics currently going on in Paris. Brenden, can I be ugly American? Can I be ugly American? Might I be ugly American? I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Every single time I throw out this take, everybody's like, oh, but Justin, there's no way it's possible. Of all the countries, obviously Greece started the Olympics, and there are other places. I believe Paris might be the site of the most Olympic Games. I'm not quite sure. I could be making that up. But of all the countries, the United States were the primary viewers of the Olympic Games. Sure, there are countries that the host country obviously is going to watch a ton. But when you think about the gold medal count, when you look at the medal count, when you look at the participation, United States, we dominate most of Olympic coverage. Not all, but most of Olympic coverage. Everything that is taking place at the Olympics should be done on American time. I said I'm the ugly American. The billions of dollars that NBC pays for the rights to broadcast the Olympics, they should be able to set the times of the events. And why do I bring this up? Because, well, I do not care about gymnastics. I do think Simone Biles is awesome. I don't like watching the events after the fact when I already know that Team USA won the gold medal.
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't like doing it. I want the suspense, and I guess I could have watched in the afternoon, but, you know.
We had this complaint, though, when we were in Tokyo, and the game was literally in the future, and we're like, we were talking about this.
Can we just do all the events that we care about? And I know it's the middle of the night. I don't care. It's the Olympics. Figure it out. All the events should be on American time. 5 o'clock, like 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. That's when all the events should be happening. And I know that puts it at about midnight. But, Europeans, like, they stay up late. And they eat dinner at like 9 o'clock.
And to your point,
at least that's from what I learned from The Office.
The United States.
People in Spain sometimes don't even eat until 11. Like
such a great rap.
Like 3 hours.
Maybe
3 hours from 2 hours ago.
Maybe the best single episode of The Office. It's up there. But
you want okay? Real quick aside, hot take. Office. I love that show. When ranking, the dinner party's great. The Dundies are great. I do feel like to be one of the best episodes of The Office, it should be in The Office.
Fair.
Just what I'm saying.
Fair.
Neither here nor there. We don't have time for that.
Still,
but I learned from the episode, The Dinner Party, that Jan believes that people in Spain don't eat until like 11 o'clock at night.
Well,
so if you're not eating until 11 o'clock at night, we can start the women's gymnastics at midnight so that I can watch it at 5 o'clock in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, no,
Come on.
It's funny you said this because I actually, there were some complaints about the timing in our house yesterday.
The internet has ruined it. We cannot avoid spoilers anymore, and the fact that NBC is already broadcasting the spoilers.
And I had told my family that this was Justin's idea that he's had for about 3 years now. I don't disagree. To answer your question, though, the United States has hosted more Winter and Summer Olympics than any others.
But I'm talking about like city, because I think this is the 4th Paris, but I could be wrong. I could be making that up.
Also, in that episode,
he was completely making it up.
I'm pretty sure that episode dinner parties, does that start in the office?
It does start, but it's primarily at Jan and Michael's
I just remember
condo.
When Jim and Pam come over and
sprung for the plasma,
and Michael Scott's like, "What have you been doing?" And Jim's like, "In the 45 minutes since I last saw you at the office, getting ready and driving over here." It's just like classic. But
then you just put it right there. It's like a whole new room.
Still looking for summer, but Lake Placid, New York, has hosted the Winter Olympics 4 times.
Boom.
So
4 times at Lake Placid.
Yeah.
How about that? Just
4
crushing
times.
it.
Globe leading. But yes, to your point, Paris has got to be up there.
I'm sure probably Athens, because I know Athens got it in 2004, and it was like the anniversary, and I'm sure if I had to guess, I would say Athens. But Paris has got to be up there. That being said, let's just start the events at like midnight in Paris. The fans can stay up. You're on vacation. You're at the Olympics. But no, Team USA is gonna now. I guess Paris is better than, like you said, Tokyo, because at least at noon today I can watch Team USA basketball. But
Tokyo was bad timing, man.
Wait a minute. It's yesterday there.
Like, it was like, well, you can watch Team USA go for gold at like 6 p.m., but it's like 11 a.m. tomorrow. So, yeah, that was interesting.
So, yeah, I continue my complaint because I would have watched if it would have been like, hey, women's all-around gymnastics, Team USA favored. Remember, Team USA got the silver in Tokyo because, what's her name? Simone Biles got the twisties, and we lost our quarterback. Had to bring in a backup. How's your girl doing?
Jade Carey?
How's she
she's
doing?
got a couple gold. She had to withdraw on one event due to illness the first night.
Got that
didn't
illness.
catch the ending, but I believe
How much would that suck? How much would that honestly suck if you have been participating in gymnastics your entire life and finally you've got the window and you are going to Paris and you get there and you get sick? Oh, my God.
Yeah, certainly can't be sick for very long because I watched her last night. I think that the team won gold
Yes,
last
they
night,
did, because
too.
it was spoiled. The women's all-around, like, it was spoiled.
There you go.
Well, I guess there's still the all-around, I think, is still coming. So, like, Simone Biles could be, like, the greatest of all time, which she already is. She does some crazy stuff out there, dude. It's just crazy stuff.
It's impressive to watch those girls work. But yeah, you know it, Justin. I'm proud to call Jade Carey a Beeve, man. It's pretty cool to see.
Speaking of the Beeves, Beeves opening up training camp, fall camp, I guess I should say. It's not really training camp. They open up today. You're going to be going down to Corvallis, being part of scrums. You're going to get to watch. And again, you mentioned this. You mentioned this to me yesterday, and I know you've probably mentioned this to me the year before, and I forgot. And I think you mentioned it to me the year before that, and I forgot after that too, because I just assumed that much like Oregon and Washington, the two primary teams that I've covered in my career, that at the beginning of the football season, that Oregon State would have a media day. And I was like, so when's Beaver Media Day? And you're like, nope, we just start practice.
We just chilling.
It's just one day.
I mean,
we're not practicing. The next day you're practicing, and I don't know. I don't
mean this negatively, but I almost think it's kind of just like, for lack of better terms, that media day would be for myself, the one person from the Oregonian, the one person from the other recruiting site, and maybe a TV person or two. Like Oregon State's media group is. It is smaller. It is
smaller, but like, and I understand that. And I know Oregon State fans hate it when I start comparing to Oregon. I get it. I know you guys hate it, and I'm sorry. But I think about Oregon on Monday had their media day down in Eugene, and guess what you saw? You saw Dan Lanning everywhere on local media. You saw Dylan Gabriel everywhere on local media. You saw, players. The mascot went to Nebraska's media day for some weird thing that showed, and I'm just like, why not the next day? While it might only be on a handful of publications, a handful of broadcasts, but like, I don't even know who Oregon State as a football team outside of Trent Bray is showcasing this year. And I know that's kind of never really been their thing, right? We're gritty, we're blue collar, we don't showcase. But, Oregon, clearly, Dylan Gabriel is the Heisman Trophy odds-on favorite right now. They're showcasing him.
So
So who are the Beavs? Like, the Beavs should be, hey, not only showcasing players, but like I said, I think I said this yesterday, these are the guys who stayed. And because it's not just to get to everyone. It should be a presentation to your fan base of like, these are the guys who you should be appreciating. These guys could have went to other teams because I would imagine every starter on Oregon State, every single starter had options. Might not have been great options, but they had options. They could have, it could have been Mountain West. It could have been being a backup at of a Big 12 school. But I'll bet you every Oregon State starter that's going to be starting for this team this year had an option to go somewhere. And they chose to stay. And like,
it was a short list though between graduation. Like it's like, let me put it this way, Justin, because I have this like of the top 10 tacklers from a year ago, I think 8 and 9 are back. So then you go to offense where it's like Damian Martinez gone, DJU gone, all three of your receivers. Like it is a true shifting of the guard in the sense of like they got one 7th-year defensive back who's been there forever.
Hell yeah.
And one 6-year.
Which, by the way, you should be able to play.
Right.
You should. I don't care. This guy's Cam McCormick's playing. No, I don't care. Let him play.
Oh, he's rocking it. And
somebody wants him on their team, you should be able to play. I don't care. But to me, my point would be, if there ever was a time to have a media day, it would be like, you guys don't know these guys. You soon will. Hey, Brenden, do a piece on like this player or, TV station, KGW. Look at this guy. Tell his story. Who is the 7th-year guy? I don't know. I'd love to know his story.
Right.
Tell it.
That's like to that point, like that's what I think is kind of interesting is like for Justin.
Give me Trent Bray behind a podium in a suit or a polo, don't care, saying, hey, we are making the best of this. We have got guys work. And instead of him clearly ready to get off the practice field in a scrum, right? Sunglasses, like, it's just one day. It's just one day. And like I said, I talked about with the fact they don't do a spring game. It's a showcase. It costs you a couple $100 in food. That's it. I don't know.
It's just one of those things where I think for this, in general, I agree with you. For this year, someone like yourself, someone who doesn't follow the roster like I do, I don't know if you could name a Beaver this year.
And tell me who I should, not you, will,
but just
like Oregon State, Trent Bray, tell me who I should be paying attention to.
There are guys whose stars need to get a lot brighter, for sure.
100%. All right, I just thought it's crazy when you told me that yesterday, and it's crazy because you told me that a year ago, too, and I forgot.
And the year before that.
And the year before that. All right, coming up next, though, Make or Miss, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, Tyson Alger is going to be joining us from the I-5 corridor. He was at Oregon football's media day on Monday. Get his thoughts on the Ducks heading into the season. Obviously heading into the Big Ten, and it is here. It is upon us as we're going to start hearing about position battles and who was better today, the offense or the defense? Well, I really felt like the defense won the day today. Those are always my favorites. It's always my favorite training camp.
Yeah.
I felt like the defense really won the day today, and then obviously all the fans freak out, and it's like none of this matters, guys.
Yeah,
I mean the practices matter and getting better matters and all that stuff, but in terms of who won the day and none of it matters.
Like establishing a starting quarterback is something I'd like to see in the next couple weeks. Things like that. But yeah,
that's okay. Real quick, because you're going to go down, and cover Oregon State, and I've said my piece on the media day thing. New coach.
At least we
don't know approach he's going to take with quarterbacks. That's going to be interesting.
New coordinator too,
because you got new coach, new coordinator, but most importantly, from a new coaching standpoint, because I've seen all sorts of different ways, right? If I get it, why Oregon 2 years ago, even though it was clear Bo Nix was going to be the starter, I get it because you're playing Georgia week 1, and it's like we're not saying anything. Georgia knew it was going to be Bo Nix. Oregon knew it was going to be Bo Nix, but why add to it? Or maybe at least make Kirby Smart take one look at, well, I guess you didn't really have much Ty Thompson film, but neither here nor there. But it wasn't announced until, and Dan Lanning was like, yeah, you'll find out when the starter runs out there. And, of course, we all knew it was going to be Bo Nix. The Beavs start off with Idaho State, and the Beavs should beat Idaho State by 20 points or more. Would it be beneficial to name your starter because Chip Kelly used to name, even in the weird when he pretended like Marcus Mariota was in a quarterback battle, even though he kicked Aaron Thomas out of town so that he could move in a slot for Marcus Mariota. Still all pretended like it was a battle. But at least the week before, they named a starter. I'm wondering what Trent Bray does.
Darren Thomas would have loved to have the transfer portal.
Oh,
just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. That
100%.
That guy would have loved to go play his final year somewhere.
Well, okay, in a smaller he was kind of like Dylan Gabriel. I think Dylan Gabriel is a better quarterback than Darren Thomas, even though I love Darren Thomas and what he ran Oregon's offense. But Oklahoma's got 5-star, can't afford to lose, blue chip prospect coming up. I forget his name, but going into the SEC. And Dylan Gabriel was like, thanks. I shall go get a boatload of NIL from Oregon. I'll go be the starter there. That was kind of what it should have been for Darren Thomas, right? Which was, hey, you've got this Hawaiian kid named Marcus who clearly you're not going to hold back anymore. Let me go find another place. Yeah, you're right. Would have loved it. Would have loved the transfer portal.
Yeah, no, I think this year, it's I used to have a pretty good handle on how things were going to go for Oregon State camps. Jonathan Smith had been, you could say boringly consistent, but he was,
That's actually a very, very good description of it. Boringly consistent.
Yeah, it was death, taxes, and how Jonathan Smith ran his program in, August. And, it was never, quarterback competitions were always decided at the same time. Now, with a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new offense, 3 quarterbacks who I think all could potentially start, there's a lot to still be, flashed out during fall camp.
That's going to be also interesting, too, because, again, other than a handful, you don't know anything about how Trent Bray is going to coach a team, which you learn these, you think you know, right? I remember Oregon fans thought they know about this Chip Kelly guy, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, this guy's running his program way different than I thought. It's like, yeah, he was a coordinator. Bellotti was running it. And as much as Trent Bray made a name for himself as a very good defensive coordinator, he had to acquiesce to the head coach. Now he's the head coach. Now he may want to try to, against Idaho State, run 2 quarterbacks out there.
Tell you one, yeah, he certainly won't be trying.
You better have a quarterback figured out by Civil War, though.
By the Oregon game, which is now week
Better
3.
have it figured out by Civil War. By week 3, probably need to figure out who your guy is.
But I'll tell you this for certain.
Who's week 2? Who the Bees got week 2?
Drawing a blank on this.
Look at you. You are hyper-focused on Idaho State, one game at a time.
Yeah.
You're actually one practice at a time right now.
San Diego State on the road. Then Oregon, then
Oh,
Purdue. I was
no.
going to say Purdue week 2, but that's right. Purdue's after Oregon. So
San Diego State on the road. That's, I guess they're not in the conference. I was like, that's.
So it's just a affiliate quote game. But I'll tell you one thing, Justin. I can guarantee you right here on July 31st, 2024,
Boom.
Trent Bray will never attempt a fake field goal again. Or just won't attempt a fake field goal. That was that play will be thrown out of the.
That one's gone.
That one will be thrown out of the book for sure.
Completely out.
It made headlines last year for all the wrong reasons. There are a couple Oregon State things that made headlines for all the wrong reasons last year. So.
That's true.
More than a couple, actually. So just some positivity, Justin. I know Beaver fans want to see dive into the football itself and not continue to dwell on all the things that are going around them. So that's kind of something I'm looking forward to. Is just getting out there and playing football.
They got a transfer, right? They got a 4-star transfer.
Jabari Johnson, but he hasn't played a game yet. So he is
okay.
He's green. He's green.
Gonna have to get that taken care of. All right, let's dive into make or miss.
All right, Justin. Had a little late edition make or miss, but one that I wanted to talk about after I definitely stole it from the guys on First Take, but one that we talked about last week.
We're stealing stuff from First Take now?
We are.
Jordan's the GOAT.
Yes.
LeBron's
the GOAT because he's playing with his kid.
No, Jordan's the GOAT.
But
Dak has more pressure on him than Anthony Edwards. Oh.
But kind of a hot take this morning.
Yes.
Dan Orlovsky came on there and said this morning, the Cowboys are the cheapest organization in all of pro sports. And this is getting back to what we talked about last week, how the best linebacker in pro football does not have a new contract. A top 5 receiver in the NFL doesn't have a new contract. And you told me, you've turned me around. Like, I think you like Dak more than I do, but still at what? Top 10 quarterback? Very least? Top 15 if we got to push it?
You could make a case what he did last year.
Yes.
Because if you were to ask this a year ago, before the season he had last year, we would probably be like, ugh, no, coming off of an injury.
But he had a good year. So,
and
top 12? I don't know. Something like. But regardless.
More than half of the teams in the league, if you said you could have your quarterback or Dak Prescott.
Probably would take
Well,
that.
let's do it. Let's play this game.
Let's do it.
It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite games.
It is.
So let's take a look. Standings. Let's start in the NFC. Ooh. Philly. Whether Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts.
They'd go with Jalen Hurts, I think. Dak Prescott hasn't gotten to a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts still gotten to a Super Bowl.
Giants definitely take Dak Prescott. Commanders for 1 year would take Dak Prescott, but I think they like Jaden Daniels. Detroit Lions.
I don't think they'd take him over Jared Goff. Call me crazy. Jared Goff put up
So
some
you don't think the Detroit Lions, if you said, hey,
just a straight
Detroit,
swap.
straight up Dak for Jared Goff.
Jared Goff's never really been injured. I think they would.
Boy,
as crazy as
the turntables have turned on Jared Goff.
I mean, if I'm...
He was a guy that was a Super Bowl quarterback and then got ran out of town.
Do you disagree? I mean, I don't really...
Let's put it at...
maybe?
Let's put it maybe. All right, that's a maybe. So we're 2 and a maybe. Green Bay Packers, no. I think they like Jordan Love.
They do.
Vikings, yes. Bears... For one season, I bet. Yeah.
Yep.
With that receiver core?
Yeah, for 1 year. Oh, yeah.
Tampa Bay.
Basically everybody in the NFC South.
Well, wait. Would you rather have Dak or Baker Mayfield?
Dak. I would.
Why do I like Baker Mayfield so much?
I don't dislike him.
I don't know why.
He's fine.
I like him so much. And I want him to succeed.
Mayfield,
now that he's not a Cleveland Brown.
Baker Mayfield is RC Cola. You're not Coca-Cola. You're not Pepsi, but there's a following of people who think you're solid. It's a bit of a different taste than the other ones. It could still get the job done.
All right. So let's go. Tampa, New Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do they have?
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. Yeah. Atlanta Falcons.
I don't know. They're so
Torn Achilles recovery. Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix.
Their idea of quarterbacks is so backwards. I don't know. That's one I just don't know. I don't know. They paid Kirk Cousins so much money that they drafted a top 10. They probably would just say no. They probably would.
Panthers, yes. Niners, no.
Would the Niners not take Dak?
Dude,
take away the salary cap if they could just add him in flat.
Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback. And I do not like the 49ers. I am the opposite. This is the opposite of a homer take. You do not win that many games by accident in the National Football League. I don't care how many weapons you have.
It's not a knock on.
Just continues to win and win and win and win. Like they were in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago. They were in the Super Bowl last year. He's an elite quarterback. He just is. I can't make heads or tails of it. I don't know why. He just is. If I'm the 49ers, I keep Brock Purdy and I do not take Dak Prescott. Crazy as it sounds.
Fair. No, I mean,
Rams, no. Stafford?
Yeah.
Seahawks, yes.
They would in a heartbeat.
Cardinals, yes. AFC gets tougher. Bills, Dolphins, Jets, no. They would keep Aaron Rodgers, Tua, and Josh Allen. Patriots, yes. Ravens, Browns, Steelers.
Steelers and Browns probably. The Browns would give up on Deshaun Watson if they could. Yeah.
Steelers.
Probably would.
Would I, if there was something more than just coffee in this mug, as a Steeler fan, and they say you could have Dak instead of Russell Wilson?
You'd probably love Dak.
I'd probably take Dak.
You'd love Dak.
I would. All
You'd
right,
be
so
like,
Steelers, yes. Texans, no. Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence or Dak Prescott?
I think they'd take Trevor Lawrence. Hard to say.
But it's close.
It is.
Colts, yes. Titans, yes. Chiefs, no.
No, that's easy.
Raiders, yes. Broncos, yeah. Chargers, no. So, that's a lot of teams.
It's like 20 teams, yeah, give or take.
He's top 10. He's top 10 because it would be more if we'd have the maybes that are in there.
Yeah. So going back to just the thought of it. So, I threw out the kind of the funny thing. Like, again, Jerry Jones was in court, last week, had the whole paternity suit and all that. And I kind of threw it out as, he's distracted. But now we're a week and some change later, Justin.
Yeah.
See, CeeDee Lamb's been holding out of camp. That's $50,000 a day. Not like it matters, but
yeah, that stuff doesn't matter because what happens is they sign the deal and then they waive the fines. Like I remember Marshawn Lynch was holding out when I was in Seattle, and I was like, yeah, but once he signed, they waived all the fines because he just signed.
So what happened? Or I said, well, yeah. So I guess ultimately, what's happened with because I disagree. I don't think Dallas is the cheapest organization in pro sports.
No, they're not.
The Knicks aren't anymore either. They proved this last offseason. James Dolan is no longer our punching bag.
So here's the way I look at it. Okay, first off, the Oakland A's are the cheapest organization in all of pro sports. They are.
Shout out.
They are leaving a fan base high and dry because they do not want to build their own stadium. The Coliseum is decrepit. It is outdated. It is has sewer backing up in it. It needs to be bulldozed. There is still in a fan base that has been basically taken for granted because Moneyball was a good movie, right? It's like, hey, remember when we made the playoffs and we were cheap? And they were like, see, we can still be cheap because you guys all love Moneyball. That's the cheapest organization, I believe, in pro sports. To me, in the NBA and the NFL, also the Pittsburgh Pirates, go back and look at them. Now, the Pirates, to their credit, did build a stadium. I don't know how much the residents of the city of Pittsburgh or the state of Pennsylvania also paid for that stadium. But to me, in a salary cap sport like the NFL is, The cheap teams are the ones that do things like the old school 49ers would charge for Gatorade, right? I believe the Arizona Cardinals are one of those where they're like, the facility has not been upgraded in decades.
So another Moneyball reference where he's pushing the soda button. He goes, "Welcome to Oakland, pal. It's $1."
That I can't prove it. I believe they ripped that off from the 49ers because it was.
I love it.
There was a time,
I love
and I don't know who the new owners of the 49ers are, but the previous owners, they came in and they added locks to the Gatorade cooler. And then to get the Gatorade cooler open, you would have to pay. And you have to go find a guy.
Oh.
And they're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, so basically, quick version on that, because I'm curious if it's changed, because essentially it's been in one family. So Eddie Bartolo was the owner when they won all their championships.
Yes.
Joe Montana. He got into some kind of legal tax trouble.
I think there was some mob stuff in there, too.
Yeah, and then his sister took over, and she married John York, and they run the team as the DeBartolo Yorks together.
Yes.
So basically, they've been owned by the same family. It's just like, oh, we took it away from the brother, and I believe gave it to the sister.
I believe when the sister took over, that's when they were like, yeah, they put a lock on the Gatorade cooler.
That's awesome. Like, that's awesome, but not awesome. Like, just the savagery to treat your...
But think about this. So the Cowboys, okay, so they haven't paid Dak. They paid Dak. They haven't paid CeeDee Lamb, and they haven't paid Micah Parsons yet. And I think CeeDee Lamb's out. Is Micah Parsons there at camp? I think he is.
A soft hold in, I believe.
It's a hold in. It's like, I'm going to be here so I don't get fined, but I'm not tackling anybody. But from what I understand, the Cowboys have the best facilities in the NFL. Their practice facility is second to. Their practice facility is so good they play high school football games on their practice field. That's how good their practice field is. Jerry Jones, like, you look at, just go. I've been to Jerry's World, and I'm fairly certain he paid for most of it. So I don't think it's a cheap organization. I think it's an organization that they pay their players based on vibes. And Jerry Jones sometimes just is like, nah, I ain't doing it. But to say they're the cheapest organization in the NFL, no.
Yeah, so stadium, it's funny how time has changed and how it was built early. So stadium cost $1.2 billion, which seems cheap now based on...
What was SoFi? Like
6.5 or 7?
$7 billion.
So, again, that's what inflation will do to you folks. But, yeah, to your point, Justin, City of Arlington, $400 million.
Okay.
So, yeah, I imagine...
Now, I don't want to get all into this, but the City of Arlington is like, okay, we'll do that, and every other Sunday, you bring in millions and millions and millions of dollars in revenue to our city, and it's a fair trade, I want to say.
Been there. Is Arlington and Dallas the equivalent of Springfield, Eugene? Is it like literally
not the
bigger,
equivalent because we're
obvious. I'm not trying to be scared, but just like those are two towns where you really don't know the border, right? And it kind of meshes.
I think more like Portland and like Hillsboro.
Okay, so there is a little.
Like you drive to, you don't quite know when you get officially into Beaverton, but you know when you're in Hillsboro.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that.
Okay, because I was like, you just always look Dallas/Arlington all the time.
But if there's no mountains, everything's spread out. You don't know, like, it's the craziest thing. All right. Coming up, we have got stuff we saw on the internet. But before we do that, I do want to let you know about our good friends at Lazy Boy. They have partnered with us to stuff the bus. School supply drive now through August 19th. Donate a backpack or 10 miscellaneous school supply items to any of the 6 local Lazy Boy locations, including Salem and Eugene, and receive up to 25% off your Lazy Boy purchase. Some exclusions to apply. The Salvation Army will then distribute your donations to local families in need. And as always, we thank you for your generosity. Stuff the bus 2024. Stuff we saw on the internet next. 620 Rip City Radio. I will say one of the fun things about the Olympics every 4 years is kind of diving into maybe a sport you didn't know all that much about and learning and you watch it for a little bit and you think you got a handle on the rules, then you kind of Google it and certain things like I've been obsessed with team handball. I would like to throw out my idea that give me an eccentric billionaire. I don't know, Bezos, Cuban, heck, even what's his name? Captain Toilets down there in L.A.
Steve Ballmer.
Steve Ballmer, any of these guys. Let's put some money together and get a handful of, I don't know. I would think basketball players, but so I was having this discussion with a friend of mine at the gym. No big deal. I work out. Team handball is essentially a combination of basketball, soccer, and dodgeball, right? Because you throw it into a goal, and obviously you got to have the arm strength like dodge. So we were saying, who would be the best? Like if we took American athletes and paid them to be team handball players, what would be the sport? And I immediately thought of basketball. I'm like, you go find a bunch of 6'8" dudes who can run and jump and dribble. And so my friend was like, well, yeah, but have you ever seen a basketball player like try to throw like a baseball or a football? Usually not that great at it.
Right.
So maybe like, do you go after former quarterbacks because of the arm strength? Anyways, some of the fun part of the Olympics is you'll learn that there's these sports, and then there are these rules. I thought I knew the rules to swimming. I really did. I thought I knew the rules to swimming. But did you see what happened in the preliminaries of, first off, hot take, too many swimming events. There's too many of them. There's a lot of gold medals to be had out there. But in one of the backstroke runs, British guy who won the bronze in Tokyo. This guy won the bronze in Tokyo, and he was in the prelims. So not even in the gold medal race of, I think the 800-meter backstroke, I think is what it was. In the prelims, finishes second place. And you know how in the prelims, basically you're just there to qualify. And is like, sweet, got it. That's a pretty good time. On to the next. And they were like, under further review, you're disqualified. And he's like, what? Did you know in swimming, you can only go underwater for so long before you have to get, you know how like, because they'll get to the edge and do the little kick flip off of the pool and kick, and then they stay underwater. Well, apparently in the backstroke, and I don't know if it's other ones as well because I haven't done enough research on you can't stay underwater past a certain line. And if you do, DQ'd out of the pool.
Okay. Well,
how nuts is that?
There's some theory to that. It probably is easier to swim under the water than it is on top of it.
But you can't breathe.
People can hold their breath for a long time.
I know they can. I don't know. It was the first I've ever heard of a guy getting disqualified because I
haven't heard of that, but I can understand.
It is something
why.
I've always wondered, like, why doesn't somebody just stay underwater the whole time? And it's like, oh, it turns out there's rules. You can't do it. But
Justin, if the great movie The Guardian taught us anything, it's that
Ashton Kutcher. It is not a good movie.
Ashton Kutcher proved you can hold your breath underwater for, I don't know, 7-8 minutes. I mean, you know, if Ashton Kutcher, I'm just kidding.
You're right.
But hey,
exactly.
That's, Justin, when I think of swimming in the pool, like, it's that movie, man. It goes to it.
Okay. We've got 3 minutes here. I asked you this yesterday, and I'm going to ask you this again today. Please take this in the spirit it's intended. When it comes to nerd stuff, you know more nerd stuff than I do. I, for the first time ever, watched the movie Deadpool. It was entertaining. Watched it on the plane. I guess I kind of get it, but I didn't quite get it. What? Without throwing anything that's going to ruin it for anybody, why are Deadpool and Wolverine together now?
simple answer, they were in comic books.
Okay.
So everything Marvel makes is comic book sourced. It was
Sure.
So like they'll never usually create characters that don't belong. Like they have to appear in some kind of a comic book in the 70s. So sometime in the 70s and 80s.
So sometime way back in the day,
Deadpool and Wolverine came together. Crazy, right? That someone put it in a comic book that long ago.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the new movie. I want to see it.
I think it's coming out Friday.
Already came out.
It's out.
Yeah, my brother saw it the night it opened.
Okay.
So yeah, he said it was solid. You know, I went and saw Twisters.
Twisters is awesome.
Awesome movie experience. So, but I'm like, okay, I just did the movie theater with the $30 popcorn and a drink and ticket. I'm like, take a breath. But
is Glenn Powell the new Matthew McConaughey? Just good-looking, cool guy from Texas.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
If you feel it, chase it.
He might be.
If you feel it, chase it.
I mean, he's gonna be in so many more things now. Like, you ready for the most wanted? There was a time when Chris Pratt was the most wanted man in Hollywood.
Yeah, now it's Glenn Powell, baby.
Just you wait, because I imagine he's gonna be in a lot of stuff.
But yeah, I was watching. What was I watching? Hot Ones. I was watching Hot Ones, where they eat the chicken wings on the internet, and it was Ryan Reynolds and what's his name? Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And they were sitting there and they're doing the hot wings thing, and they're out there. They're promoting the crap out of this movie, as you're supposed to. And then I was like, why is... Now, I haven't seen Deadpool 2, but...
A rare number 2 that's better than number 1. I know you're not going to search and go necessarily look for it, but a rare number 2 that I would put above the first.
All right.
I love Deadpool 2. And that's why I'm like...
I looked for it when I flew, but it's not on a streaming service.
Makes
so
sense.
I was like, I'm not going to pay for it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I haven't seen Deadpool 2, but...
Interestingly enough, though...
I'm just curious how Wolverine shows up.
So it is, it happened in the comics. There's a whole bunch more deeper rabbit holes that we can't explain quickly.
Right.
But like the long and short of it is they appeared in the comics, and it's kind of a big deal in the sense, Justin, that...
Is this like Fast and the Furious? They're just like, let's put these guys together. Only they did it in a comic book in the 70s?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it makes money...
Hobbs and Haw, or Hobbs and Shaw.
Such a bad movie. Such a bad movie. But
never saw that one.
Yeah, no, neither did I, but it did not do well. But like, to your point, and this is kind of funny, or interesting, I should say, not funny. Did you know, Justin, this is a big deal, not only for the fact that it's a movie, it is the first movie in major modern film history with an R-rated title that the House of Mouse has signed off on, because that's why people didn't know this movie was going to get made.
The Deadpool Wolverine thing. Because when they made the original Deadpool,
both of them,
they were not Disney.
20th Century Fox. So everyone's like, is Disney going to make an R-rated movie? There it is. So to my knowledge, first R-rated movie.
But there were like subsidiaries of Disney that had R-rated movies. But this is
Marvel it's like Marvel and Star Wars, right? So yeah, go out and see Deadpool if you dare.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to see it. I was just wondering, like, why are they together now?
Comic books.
Should I have known this? Clearly, no. All right, there we go. There's stuff we saw on the internet mixed in with some nerd stuff. Let's get to hour number 3. We got some more football to talk about. Tyson Alger is going to join us. We got an RCM mailbag. All sorts of fun stuff coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Chicago Bears have agreed to the highest extension in team history. 4 years, $110 million for wide receiver DJ Moore. So DJ Moore is going to have a whole lot of friends hitting him up like, hey, bud, what's happening? Speaking of the Bears, they will be kicking off the Hall of Fame game against the Houston Texans tomorrow in Canton, Ohio. But no Caleb Williams and no Bears starters participating in the game. The Dodgers have added starting pitcher Jack Flaherty from the Tigers and outfielder Kevin Kiermaier from the Blue Jays to bolster their postseason run. And Team USA basketball tips off in 5 hours from now. 4 hours from now. Noon. Against South Sudan. That's 4 hours from now. They're 29-point favorites despite beating South Sudan by 1 in pre-Olympic play. Tyson Alger joins the show in 20 minutes, but we have new NFL technology. Hour 3 starts right now, 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Tyson Alger joins the show in 20 minutes. Just told you that on the update. RCM mailbag coming up as well. We started the show today talking about some of the changes to the NFL, and I'm saying, we could make some more changes. They keep messing around with kickoffs. I'm to the point now where it's just like, let's just kick off to start the game. Much like in college basketball, they tip off to start the game. There's no more tip-offs in college basketball. They don't have a jump ball. They go to the possession arrow. We're fine.
To start the game, you do.
That's what I'm saying. After they start the game, there's no more tip-offs. Start the game with a kickoff, moving on from that, and then don't do any more kickoffs after that. Just put the ball at the 25 and let's get going. But
and then no one will kick it out of bounds anymore either, Justin. Ball at the 35, man. Isn't that that's still a...
Yeah, we eliminate that. Just get that out.
Because that still hurts to your team, man. You kick it out of bounds, like, I'll take that at 35, thank you.
That's the biggest momentum suck in all of football is like you just scored, feeling great. Kick it right out of bounds, give them the ball at the 35. Okay.
That 10 yards might not seem like a lot.
Can't just keep it in between the big... It's a big football field. And again, I can't kick. Nonetheless, in the spirit of continuing to talk about maybe tweaks to the NFL, saw this. The NFL in preseason games this year, I'm actually incredibly excited about this. I'm incredibly excited about this because I have been saying for years and years and years, with all the technology we have in our world, why is it that one of the most important things in all of football, which is a first down marker, why do we still have sticks and chains? It doesn't make any sense. We have the amount of technology to, GPS from the moon where a nickel is at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, yet we still need sticks and chains to measure 10 yards in an NFL game. Well, good news is technology now starting to come around. The NFL now moving closer to replacing the chain gang. Should be replaced already. Now, let me preface what I'm about to say. Much like with every technology, you need to have a backup, right? I've been in the middle of a broadcast where I don't have a hard copy of the things I'm supposed to because I depended upon the internet and technology to have that one make me look really stupid. Always got to have a hard copy. So hear me out. I believe we should be getting rid of the chain gang as a primary way to measure a first down. We should still have the old guys sitting there, right? They've earned it. We should still have the old guys, and we should still have them, just standing there for aesthetics. It's fun. Move the sticks, they call it, right? But in terms of measuring it out, it's a waste of time. Two, there's no possible way that every chain set of chains in every NFL stadium and every college football stadium is exactly 10 yards. There's no way. Statistically, it's not possible. I have a home. I have tried to measure things in my home. Nothing is level or equal. When you, like, there's got to be a couple that are a few inches off. You got to be. Just statistics alone. So, with that being said, NFL executives told the Associated Press earlier this morning the league will be testing Sony's Hawkeye technology during some preseason games. The system most likely won't be ready for full implementation until next season. All right, well, we'll get there soon enough. Though it could happen sooner, we're in the installation phase for all of our stadiums. Really getting them calibrated and up to date, said Brantley, the NFL's senior vice president and chief information officer. We're just really getting to a place where the system is as accurate as possible and really calibrating across multiple stadiums. So if you don't know what Hawkeye technology is, if you watch tennis, they don't have lines judges anymore.
They have cameras that can.
They have cameras.
So can we?
Just like we are sitting on our butts on our couch going like, that's clearly a first down. We don't need to measure it. I can see it.
So can we use some kind of crazy cool AI thing to build like a digital yellow line that you can see from the stands?
That has been my dream.
Okay.
Brenden,
Good to
I
know.
have said that for
Great minds, man.
10 years. I have been saying, while scientists have got some things to figure out, global warming and, worldwide pandemics and
Hey, we overcame COVID, kind of. Kind of. We put us to work, Justin. We'll get it done.
Depends on which grocery store you go to. But I say there's certain grocery stores, people are still a little nervous. Anyways, neither here nor there. Don't have time for that. This is a good step in the right direction, right? Good step in the right direction because there is no need to run out the chains and stretch them out, and there's no way they're completely accurate. Just to the camera. Yeah, and you could even do it like they do in the tennis, where have you seen like they do they start the slow clap, and then they go, oh, out. And it's kind of cool. So, like up on the big video board and in front of us at home, you could do like a Hawkeye technology and a virtual chain where, like, don't they do that on Madden? Where, like, they stretch the chains out and, just like you could do that. But with all the technology in the world, there is no need to have sticks and chains measuring first downs. It's the most important measurement in the sport. It truly is. Other than, did the ball cross the plane? But I would bet you coaches would be like, give me an accurate measurement. First down, drive continues, chance to score. That chance to score might change my life. Because as we all know, that's the beauty and the craziness of football is that a first down can mean an extra play, can mean an extra field goal, which could mean one extra win, which could be the difference between the playoffs or not, which could mean the difference between getting fired or not. These measurements change lives. I don't want to get hyperbolic here, but these measurements change and affect lives and livelihoods. We have the technology. Keep them as a backup. Put the old guys on the sidelines. Give them a good view of the game. It's got to be pretty cool. But all of a sudden, hey, it's close. Go to the ear. First down. How do we know? The computer told me to. Because we're all sitting it's like the strike zone in Major League Baseball. Like we're all sitting at home, and they've got the K zone right there, and it's like we can see it. Poor umpire behind the catcher, he can't see it. We all sitting on the couch can see it. That being said, yes, Brenden, we need to do something about this. I don't know how we do this. I've had this idea, honestly, for more than a decade in radio shows I have done in Eugene, in Seattle, another station here in Portland, and I've also brought it up when I was on TV, and I shall bring it up again. How do we not have a yellow line on the field?
I don't know how they can do it, but there has to be some sort of...
There's got to be a way.
Lasers.
There's
lasers.
It's like the international sound for lasers. Yes.
Pew, pew. Yeah, lasers. I'd say
There's got to be a way, because we sit there and we watch these. Now, again, I shouldn't feel sorry for football players, especially at the highest level in college and professionals. They're living their dream. They're getting NIL. They're getting paid. But isn't that the worst when you're sitting and you're watching a game at home and a running back clearly has a first down, just fall down, but he doesn't know it? He doesn't know it because he doesn't have the yellow line that you and I are seeing. And so he then jukes back and then comes back behind the line. You're like, no, just fall forward. Also, I go to lots of games. I look for the yellow line at games all the time because I've been programmed by the TV that's in front of me watching games at home. Do you ever do that when you're sitting at like Reeser and you're just like, oh, nope, there's no yellow line? I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I look for the yellow line. I'm like, oh, that's right. There's no yellow line. This is real life. But there needs to be one.
Well, and anyone who's watched a sporting event in person knows that, and that's the nice thing about being up in a press box, is you see it with your eyes. Then all you have to do is look back and look up, and you're going to see the play live on TV happening about 20 to 30 seconds afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, every time I'd be like, oh, was that a catch? Was that a fumble? I'm not looking at I'm looking up, and same thing with, with that. It's, I'm always looking to see, oh, is it close? It looks like they got a better spot with the line on TV. So, totally.
All right, now back to what is actually possible. According to the NFL, they said they're reducing a significant amount of time. 40 seconds for each time they use the sticks, right? Basically is making the game that much more impactful. So they're saving every measurement. They're saving 40 seconds. That could add up to a significant amount of time. Getting the game going, I think, is and momentum and flow of a game is important. Here's the other thing, and I wonder, are they going to be able to, because you can stop motion now where the knee hits. Do you know what I mean? And if you implement this system put all the cameras inside the stadium, can they do a thing where now this thing will spot the ball too? Because you should be able to.
You would think so. I mean,
just put the camera and then knee down, boom, freeze it, and then the Hawkeye spins it and it goes, yeah, that's a first down. Or no, he was short. Because right now, like you know how like sometimes you see it with weird angles? And they're like, oh, they'll stop it. And it's like, it might be the 47. It might be the 47 and a half. Well, this will tell us.
Remember the index card? Wasn't that so much fun?
Man. So much fun, the index card.
It's like, up an index card away. Yeah, that's where we are.
All right, coming up next, Tyson Alger is going to be joining the program. But before we get to Tyson, us here at Rip City Radio, we want to send you on an unforgettable trip to Victoria, BC. You ever been to Victoria, BC? I've heard it's
Canada
lovely.
For me.
The Black Ball Ferry Line. That's right. Check out the contest page at ripcityradio.com for complete details and your chance to win. Tyson Alger joins the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so I was in Indianapolis on Thursday for Big Ten Media Day. I'll be perfectly honest, it was kind of weird. It was kind of cool, but it was kind of weird. See all those Big Ten logos up there, and it's like, oh, there's Oregon, there's Washington, there's USA. It's kind of weird. Also, of course, on top of the weirdness, you had UCLA's head coach making I'm assuming it was a bad joke, but added a little bit to the weirdness. But that has come and gone. Oregon's Media Day was on Monday. That has come and gone. Football is now being practiced and shall be played in 31 days, and the I-5 corridor is on a heater. If you are not subscribed to the I-5 corridor, you need to do so. Well, not immediately. Do so in about 18 minutes when we're done with the segment. But joining us now, the founder, head writer, CEO, and fantasy football commissioner of the I-5 corridor, Tyson Alger, back on the big show. Tyson, good morning. How we doing, bud?
You know, I've thought about doing like let's get all the subscribers into like some sort of fantasy football league, but I have a habit of like saying like we're going to start a series or we're going to start doing this, and then like I get through like 3 of them and then I just stop. And like I absolutely feel like that's what would happen with like if I did like a weekly fantasy football league standings. Like it's just I don't have that energy. I'm not a young cat anymore, Justin. I can't hang.
Tyson, my wife and I have these conversations where we get like excited about something, and then we have to have a real talk where we go, do we really like this, or do we like the idea of this? And I think fantasy football is something that it's never been my thing, but I guess I kind of like the idea of it. And then I pick a team, and by week 3, I'm just like, I'm in the weeds. I don't care enough about this. I'm ready to be done. So yeah, there's always that. Do we like this, or do we like the idea of this, or group outings, or a big family barbecue? All of those things. I like the idea of it. I don't know if I'm actually going to like the application of it.
Oh yeah, the family outings I think are like number one on that, especially like if you're hosting, because like the thought of hosting we've dabbled in a Super Bowl party over the years. You've declined it, and it's
I did.
Sorry. Whenever you're planning something like that, like you have this anticipation of like, oh yeah, like 100 people are going to show up. I'm going to be the belle of the ball. Everyone, and then like 8 people show up, and they're not even like your A group, if you know what I mean. Like it's just like, oh, thanks for coming. I still have a lot to clean up, and I don't even get to talk about it on the radio the next week. So,
and you all need to, and you need to go home, like right now. It's like the game is now over. We're moving on to Sunday night programming. You guys need to just get out of here.
Like the Orville's coming on, guys. Like
yeah.
I need.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Well, much like whether a Super Bowl party or a gathering, I always felt like, now I did not go down to Eugene on Monday. You did, but I always felt like Media Day down in Eugene, always kind of like the adult media version of the first day of school. Right? Hey, so-and-so got taller. Hey, that's a new person there. And then you see some of the old people. How was your summer? So, and it always kind of felt like a first day of school. But, boy, a lot of changes, not only with Oregon and a roster turnover and a new quarterback, but a new conference and everything else. What was the vibes? What was the vibes on Monday? I know we're going to talk later on, later on about the vibes in Indy with regard to Oregon. But what was the vibes like down there on Monday? Optimism?
Yeah, it was very optimistic, and like I don't think I've been to an Oregon Media Day where like that's not the vibe. Like it's very positive, and they've changed the format slightly over the years. It used to be, you'd come in and all the players would be at the tables at the same time, and you'd have to compete for their attention with the Hawaiian food that was also being brought out. So that was always tricky. They've altered it slightly now, where they bring in 4 players at a time, and they do 10-minute sessions with them, and then they rotate it through, and then you don't get food until afterwards. So it's like a big like reward at the end to actually like interview all the players. And yeah, I mean, like it's definitely the most optimistic interview session of the year. It feels like the one time where like anything goes questions wise, like and you're not having to like ask about specifically what happened at practice today or the opponent coming up. And so like I always like dropping into those because it's I feel like it's one of the few times that you can kind of get the athletes before they're completely consumed with like the start of the football season. So, I dropped in and I did some real reporting, talking to the wide receivers about, how deep that room is now. I talked to a lot of the second year transfer guys about how year 2 in the portal, after the portal, it can be a lot more successful than year 1. And then I also spent like 15 minutes with the long snapper because that's what the corridor does. We do our annual very special list conversation, and we had a fun one with Luke Basso yesterday as well. So yeah, like the vibes are good. Dan Lanning said very little while smiling a lot, which is I think a good sign. And yeah, we're well on our way. There was a lot. I think the theme of this media day, though, was there was still a lot of residual NCAA football, the video game talk. And that just kind of made me feel a little bit old and sad because I don't have a video game system at the moment. But, we'll get there. If I sell 2 subscriptions today, we'll get that system. So,
all right. -5 corridor. Can we at least get Tyson like maybe some paddles or something? Do you have to buy the paddles separately? I don't know. Again,
one comes with the console.
And am I going to need a television set too?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Gosh, we're really building from the ground up here.
We really, really are. You go to Costco though; they got those there. You want to borrow the Costco card real quick? We'll get you taken care of.
Yeah. I mean, like we look mostly similar. I'll take that.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right. Obviously, Tyson, going into the season, Oregon, one of the favorites in the Big Ten. You got Dylan Gabriel's one of the favorites in the Heisman Trophy race already. The recruiting and the roster has always been the biggest story with Oregon football. And like you talked about, the optimism, 12-team playoff and everything else. Heading into this camp and heading into the early parts of the season, other than the obvious, which is, can Oregon get to the playoff? Can Gabriel win Oregon's second Heisman Trophy? And what are their national title hopes? What are you most intrigued about? What are you most interested in this particular Oregon football team?
One something that I just kind of mentioned a second earlier, it's the wide receivers, just because I think there's a relatively large assumption that like Tez Johnson's just going to come in and do what he did last year, which was set a program record for the most passes caught. And if you watch that spring game, it did seem like that him and Dylan Gabriel do have a pretty good connection there, and I think those two will look very similar to the way that Tez Johnson was used with Bo Nix at quarterback. That being said, the Ducks have some just absolute studs also on the depth chart, whether it's Trayshawn Holden or Jurian Dickey, a former 5-star guy who talked about like getting in shape this year. And last year he was a little bit too heavy. I think he said he was at 225 and he's down about 10 pounds. And so I just think there's, probably 3 or 4 guys other than Tez Johnson on this roster that could kind of emerge as like on any other year on an Oregon roster, we'd be talking about them as like the number 1 receiver threat, or in past years, it'd be the boy, how long has it been since Oregon's had a receiver that looks like this guy? And so I think that's the most talented position group on the team. And I just like really want to see like how that evolves with like another like really good quarterback and one who maybe doesn't have like that, just like guaranteed built-in connection that like Bo and Tez did. So I want to kind of see how that, like the hierarchy of that room plays out. And so, yeah, like that's probably the thing that I want to see the most, but also on the other side of the ball, I just want to see like how stout this front seven is. Oregon returned a lot of skilled players at linebacker, Justin Jacobs, Jeffrey Bassa, all the guys on the edge. But the defensive line is really where they upgraded through the transfer portal and brought in some like really, really big bodies. And so I think just like, obviously you want to see how many points Oregon is going to score, but when you're playing in the Big Ten and you're up against some of these really big kind of offensive fronts, I think, the success of this front seven is going to be a key piece for the Ducks moving into this year.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I know Dan Lanning mentioned it a handful of times there in Indianapolis, and I know he mentioned it again on Monday. You keep hearing him talk about it over and over again. And I think it's a It's a tremendous thing to continue to say, which is, the transfer portal has kind of created an indoor and an outdoor for every program. And, there's going to be just times where you're going to lose a guy that you really don't want to lose. But I thought it was interesting because I didn't realize this. And Lanning mentioned, he's like, yeah, since Lanning and his staff has been there, they have not lost a starter to the portal, which is kind of nuts when you think about it, because even some of the better programs, I mean, Dylan Gabriel was the starting quarterback at Oklahoma. He got into the transfer portal. It's an interesting statistic that I think Lanning is smart to drive home, the fact that Oregon hasn't lost one starter in 2 years to the transfer portal, which I was kind of surprised by.
Yeah, and especially at like some of these positions where they are finding like success too. Like, like at running back, we talked this week to Noah Whittington and Jordan James, and I think a lot of people assume that like Jordan James, after the season he had last year, is going to be like the lead number one back. But before Noah Whittington got hurt, like he was a stud as well. And then they have multiple guys behind them too, and just the fact that like they didn't lose Whittington or potentially James, and guys are seemingly okay with kind of like splitting carries and reps. I think that's really, really incredible, especially, I would think that coaches probably have in their mind in most games this year, like some sort of juggling of playing time. I think it's something that you kind of constantly have to address, especially if it's a player that like you like and you want to keep around, who's maybe not getting the exact type of playing time they are now. But yeah, the fact that they haven't lost any starters, the fact that they've brought in more players and they keep those guys on the roster, that's one of the biggest things Lanning's talked about is, yeah, his job is to go out and bring in players who are better than the ones on the roster, but the other half of their job is to make sure the guys on the roster are better than when they came in. And so I think you're getting a nice kind of equilibrium of those two things where the guys who are rising to the top on Oregon's depth chart are those legit number one guys, and they just keep adding depth to back them up.
You also had a chance, it was up on Friday on the corridor, a chance to sit down with Dante Moore, which, again, I'm kind of fascinated by this quarterback scenario that Dan Lanning was able to pull off. This is, I mean, maybe I'm being a bit of a homer here. Maybe I am just a little bit too much, putting too much shine on Dan Lanning. But in an era where five-star quarterbacks are at the biggest value they've ever had, where they can make money and switch teams and can hippity hop all over the country, and it feels like there is no greater value in college sports than a five-star quarterback. The fact that Oregon was able to bring back a recruit that they lost on signing day to come back and agree to be a backup in Dante Moore, to me, this is, I know Dylan Gabriel is the story, and a very sad story about his dog as well. We don't need to bring the people down, but he's the story with the Heisman Trophy and everything else. But this, I don't know if this is getting enough attention. You got a chance to sit down with Dante Moore. The fact that Lanning pulled this off is such an unbelievable move in an era where Dante Moore could start on 40 different college football teams this year.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to Moore about, and I asked him too. I was like, hey, so you probably, it's like you probably could have gone to 50, 100 schools this year and had like a decent shot for playing time. And this might be one of like the few scenarios in the country where, like they're going to say the right things during the fall if we're going to let our guys battle. But like, there's no quarterback battle here. Everyone knows it's going to be Dylan Gabriel. Like the guy's a Heisman front runner with 14,000 career passing yards. Like it's pretty established. But one of the things like Moore was saying is he just said his freshman year was really tough for him. He's from Detroit, so he moved across the country to UCLA. He was 17 years old at the time. He was in a quarterback battle with a guy with multiple years of experience. His mom was dealing with a cancer battle. You had a head coach who kind of seemed like he was 1 foot out, 1 foot in half the year. And so like it wasn't the ideal year for a five-star quarterback who had really nothing but success up until that time. And so I think when he was reestablishing what he wanted to do with his career and what he needed to kind of like get back on the horse, I know he was extremely comfortable with Oregon and Dan Lanning and that staff before he decommitted from Oregon the first time. There's just certain things happen, and he said when he entered the portal, he knew exactly where he was going. He knew Oregon would make him better, and I think learning behind Gabriel and also an important piece of this roster too. Like, I think we're all on board with the fact that Oregon's a playoff team this year that might even have bigger dreams than that. And it's one of those. If Gabriel were to get hurt, like, this is a year where you need to have an absolute stud of a backup quarterback. And I think, on paper, without seeing him outside of the spring game, this is the best backup quarterback Oregon's ever had. So not only is this a huge boom for them in 25 and maybe 26, but this could be a huge, huge, huge move for them in the present and this year as well.
And that is kind of Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor in his normal spot here on Wednesday morning on 620 Rip City Radio. It is one of the things that I know Dan Lanning mentioned during the offseason. He talked to NFL coaches because, Tyson, there's going to be a 12-team regular season. And if everything goes Oregon's way, likely a Big Ten championship game. And if everything goes Oregon's way again, likely a playoff game or two. Right now, we're at 15 games right there. And, most college football teams are used to kind of 12 with and then maybe a bowl game. And every single game kind of adds, more and more risk to injury. And so depth is important. But I saw Lanning was talking to NFL coaches about, do you need to factor in rest now? Do you need to factor in keeping guys fresh when you are going to be not only playing in a Big Ten conference where physically they're bigger, but, you've got to go to Wisconsin in November. You've got to go to Michigan in November. You're a cold weather guy. You know that while we get a little chilly up here in the Pacific Northwest and on the West Coast, that's not Midwest cold on top of maybe a potential playoff run. That, to me, is going to be such a variable this season to see how not only Lanning but other coaches handle, do you rest guys? Do you keep guys in there? Do you run it up to try to make it look good for the playoff committee? Because you have now more games than anybody's ever played in the history of college football.
Yeah, it's going to fascinate me to see what happens for guys' numbers who are in the Heisman race or stuff like that. Those games where you would typically, throw a guy in there to get his 3 or 4 touchdowns and then maybe pull him for the second half. Like you said, this is a long, long season, and 15 games that used to be the absolute best case scenario. That's you win the Pac-12, you win the playoff, and you're going everything out for game 15. And now it's just there's going to be a lot of teams that are playing that much football, and it's just a much different cadence to things. I can't think of a year that Oregon's made it that deep into the season where they haven't had at least 1 or 2 significant injuries that they've had to deal with. And if that's just kind of becoming the norm now, I think it's going to further emphasize these teams that have loaded depth charts where you can potentially rest some guys and not take that big of a step back when you get on the field. I don't want this to turn into the NBA where all of a sudden we have load management week in and week out, but I do think that this is where you're going to see the teams that are in the top 10, top 5 of the consistent recruiting rankings really taking a step forward because they can actually afford to not put the pedal on the metal for the entire season with their number ones.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor. You can follow him on Twitter or X at Tyson Alger. You can subscribe at I-5. That's the number 5, corridor.com. All the links are on social media. And for those that enjoyed this conversation, Tyson, I am hearing rumors, I am hearing tale that maybe there may be an extended Justin and Tyson conversation, maybe coming down the corridor later this afternoon.
Yeah, we're right now we're stuck in the contract deals. You get to this point, and there's a lot of agents. It's both. I think both parties want to get it done. I mean, obviously the fans are begging for it, but you just got this. This is why you pay the lawyers and the agents and those people a lot of money to just tie up these details so that way we can give the people what they want.
Yeah, people weren't prepared when I married a lawyer that I'm just going to always invoke my my lawyer. It's my lawyer's going to have to read that. And it's you mean your wife? I'm yeah, she's going to have to read that. But yes, I'm going to be on the corridor coming up this afternoon. I'm very excited about it. So Tyson and I will continue our football discussion. Also, you can read about Patrick Herbert. You can read about the long snapper. You can read about Dante Moore. You can go back and hear about Dan Lanning talking about ain't no fun and the rabbits got the gun. All sorts of great stuff also coming down the road. Hey, Tyson, I look forward to talking to you later on this afternoon, but also look forward to talking to you again next week back here on The Big Show.
Absolutely, buddy.
There we go. Tyson Alger, boys and girls from the I-5 corridor. Before we get to the RCM mailbag, I do want to let you know, Ticket Tuesday, that was yesterday, but it's coming up again next week. Exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long, so listen to Rip City Drive every Tuesday afternoon for your chance to win, or you can just get your Hillsboro Hops tickets right now at hillsborohops.com. RCM mailbag next, 620 Rip City Radio. I know college football is opening up camp today. Brendan's going to be heading down to Corvallis, making that trek. Obviously preparing for warmer weather. You rocked some shorts today, and you have now put in your contacts, and you are freaking me out over there. I look to my right, and I'm like, I don't know who's in Brendan's chair. I don't know who that dude is, but he better get out of there. And it's just, no, it's you. Like Clark Kent, you took off your glasses. You're wearing shorts today. But, yeah, you with the contacts is how normally everybody knows you. I see you for 3 hours with your glasses on every day, and it's freaking
It's always entertaining because
freaking me out a little bit.
It's something that I can count on. Like, always is, it's not often, but there are, a dozen to 18 times a year where I have to, leave the show and go straight down to Corvallis.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those times I just drive better, like longer distances with my contacts in, and I just
safety first.
Yeah, I just like
we don't want you with blurry vision heading down
and
to
you
Corvallis.
Can't wear sunglasses when you have glasses on. So anytime I'm out and about,
see, we can't have a glare. I'm with you. It's
anytime
just
I'm out and about, I gotta have them.
are
But at 4:30 in the morning with you, man, I'm ready for those glasses.
Yeah, well, at 8:47, you're freaking me out.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Understood.
I wasn't prepared for that. Either way. So we got fall camp getting underway. People can find all the stuff at beaversedge.com. Give you a little plug there.
It's going to be an awesome and busy month at Beaver's Edge. And, yeah, Justin, I mean, are you ready for when I come in with just my hot takes tomorrow after day one? I mean, day one of practice, I'm going to find out everything today.
Yeah. So. And I'm sure they're going to be more than helpful to just tell you all of the things. Surely. So obviously we've got that coming up. And all sorts of fun stuff. Team USA plays at noon today, so we'll be talking about that. But right now, let's wrap up the big show. Let's get to the RCM mailbag.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to keep tabs on Team USA, Justin. You said noon? Yeah, I'll have to.
They play at noon.
Get the updates on
I know that they beat South Sudan by 1. It was like 100-101, 101-100. But
who do they have today?
South Sudan.
South Sudan again. Yeah.
So, but I think they're going to crush them today. I think that pre-Olympic stuff might have been. I don't know. There was something going on, but we'll find out.
Did you hear the thing about how apparently Eric Spoelstra? Help me out. Who's the other assistant coach?
Mark Few.
I thought there was one more. Maybe it was just Eric. Maybe it was just this is Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra, Mark Few?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Eric Spoelstra apparently went to Steve Kerr after, I would assume, this most recent game and said, oh, yeah, well, unless you coach LeBron, you won't know that, like, when it really matters, he's just going to turn it up to a level you don't know. And it was basically just like saying that, oh, maybe first didn't matter, and now it's like basically it was just like Spoelstra just being like, oh yeah, just watch, LeBron will step up his game, and I'm like, okay,
he does do that. I mean,
he does.
Anyways,
he does, but
right.
Found it interesting.
All right, let's dive into the mailbag.
Nevertheless, yes. So this question comes in from Larry Miller, a longtime listener.
Larry,
Justin.
He listens every single day, and we appreciate him and his feedback. I might not always respond on Twitter because I am the worst Twitter follow. Worst/best, but we appreciate all of our listeners and their feedback on the show.
But no, he asked what the strangest thing you've seen someone do for a workout is, and I thought it was a great question. So
the strangest thing I've seen someone do at the gym,
and I think you should clarify that CrossFit is very different from like. Now,
some of the things that we do might seem strange. All right.
Just like a different atmosphere than like an Anytime Fitness or a Planet Fitness.
Yes.
Like where I think most people go to jump on the treadmill or what have you.
So like we do a thing called a farmer's carry, which is essentially you take 2 heavy kettlebells. Now, are you aware of what a kettlebell looks like? It's just a ball with a handle. It's like a cannonball with a handle on it, and you take 2 kettlebells and you hold them like 2 suitcases, and you walk for an extended period of time. It's a little weird if you were to see, because we usually do it around the block in Northwest Portland, and if you were just driving around and saw like, people carrying big heavy. It might look a little bit strange.
Wait, you guys work outside too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, really?
It's a lot of, especially in the summer. Like you get in, you lift some weights, you go out, you run around the block. You mix cardio with the weightlifting. It's a full body whole thing.
That's cool.
But most of the stuff that we do, it's called functional fitness. It is to get you stronger to be able to lift heavy things in real life. But one of the other things that we do is you get on these rowing machines. You've been to the gym, you've seen the rowing machines, right? Now, anybody that has ever seen a rowing machine, even if you are not trained in the arts of the rowing machine, could probably sit on it, grab the handle, and row a couple of strokes. You know what I mean? Well, I saw someone, and you know how like the rowing machine, it's got like a handle. I saw someone grab the rowing machine handle, hold it vertically, and row like you would row a kayak. Does that make sense? Am I describing it well enough? Like you row like an oar, like you are a yeoman, right, on a Viking ship. That's how you row it. Or like the Winklevoss brothers on. This person grabbed the handle, which is attached to a chain, which is attached to a wheel, and proceeded to hold it vertically and went left, right, like they were on a kayak. And nobody quite knew what to do.
Interesting.
That's the oddest thing I think I've seen. I've seen some people lift weights in weird ways. There was a big craze about 15 years ago with the Bosu ball, which is kind of, like what Jim Pops Dwight's ball, right? It's a fitness orb.
Yes.
It's called the Bosu ball. There's some weird stuff that people would do while balancing on that. Also, anytime you get someone doing like on like the universal gym where they're clearly using it incorrectly.
I still think even just the people who are ridiculously, like obnoxiously loud. I'm not saying you can't be loud, but obnoxiously loud at the gym.
It's more of the culture of the gym that I go to. I am obnoxiously loud. I'm obnoxiously loud. Sorry about it. But it shouldn't surprise anybody. You listen to this show for 3 hours a day. Some people would describe this as obnoxiously loud. That's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to Tyson Alger from the I-5 Quarter. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning on 620 Rip City Radio.